Hey guys, if you're new to my channel, my name's Jason. In this video, we're going to look at an article that I found online. The title of the article is "The World's First 3D Printed Vegan Steak is Here, and it could be hitting restaurants soon." Just when you thought 2020 couldn't possibly get any more bizarre, a company has brought out the world's first 3D printed vegan steak. Redefined Meat, an Israel company based in Rehovot, has unveiled an alt steak which replicates the texture, flavor, and the appearance of real life meat. Notice that it doesn't replicate the nutrient content of actual meat, which we'll get into shortly. So this is all thanks to 3D printing technology. Human beings smart enough to make their own food and dumb enough to eat it. The new alt steak is made out of soy and pea proteins, coconut fat, and sunflower oil, along with natural flavors and colors. So first, soy we know is a estrogenic kind of protein source from plants. It also has other anti-nutrients. Pea protein, just as a side note, animal dog food that is made with pea protein. An interesting fact is that dogs are actually developing heart disease from eating kibble that is primarily pea protein. So that's something to keep in mind. Because we also, okay, wait, let's just continue. We can go into another video about soy and pea protein. Coconut fat, I guess that's okay. It's a plant form of saturated fat. It has some good quality fats in there. But we also have the sunflower seed oil. Now, we know that there is evidence that these seed oils can be heavily oxidized, oxidizing your LDL, as well as damaging your vessels, and overall creating a highly oxidized environment that leads to high oxygen radicals, which then go and destroy cells. So seed oils within this fake meat is extremely unhealthy, especially the fact that they're making processed foods and now more lab-grown meats, for example, as well as other mock meats made from protein and soy primarily. These are high in omega-6 only, so this meat would have only omega-6. All of the processed food in the center of the grocery store, you have to remember, are primarily made of 3 substances and then chemicals to kind of change the taste. Just a minute, I'm on a video. Yeah, so most of it is corn, wheat, and some kind of sugar, whether it's cane, which is a plant-based sugar, or something else like corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup. So if you notice, these are technically all plant-based substances in the processed food. This is also just the same deal. It's taking us away from real whole food animal foods that are complete with all of the complete proteins, every single profile of fatty acids, saturated fats, monounsaturated fats. Each within those groups are different varieties of fats that all have specific beneficial functions within the body. These are deeply lacking. You just have the typical seed oils with no omega-3 in this 3D printed meat. If we also look, they'll tote this as a good thing because there's no saturated fats, really, no animal saturated fats, and especially the fact that there's no cholesterol, even though there is evidence and it's been agreed in the scientific community that dietary cholesterol is not a driver for any heart disease, that the evidence doesn't show that, and that it's a myth that has been long-standing that corporations use to demonize real food, which is animal food. So the new steak is made out of soy, pea proteins, coconut fat, and sunflower oil, devoid of all the natural and abundant nutrients that are found in actual meat. Designed to recreate the muscle structure of beef, the faux steak is high in protein. That doesn't mean that if it's high in bulk protein, because they just added up all the amino acids, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's high in all the essential amino acids that are often lacking in the plant kingdom. We have no issues when we're eating animal proteins with low essential amino acid profiles. It's designed to recreate the muscle structure of beef. The faux steak is high in protein, and being plant-based has no cholesterol. That is not a good thing. Your brain is made of 25% cholesterol. The brain is also made of fat. So the composition of your brain is basically fat and cholesterol. There's a high level of saturated fat. There's a high level of omega-3 DHA in your brain, especially DHA as well as EPA. So all of these are important materials that you have to provide, and this seems to be deeply lacking and also encouraged to be avoided with the global new guidelines of removing as much as possible animal foods, especially red meat, in your diet, and replacing it with these processed kibble, basically. It seems no detail has been spared with this creation, either working with leading butchers, chefs, food technologists, and taste experts. See, don't forget, it's all about taste, texture. It's about fulfilling that craving that all humans have for meat, because it's a natural and optimal food that humans require. So when you start avoiding animal foods, the cravings really never subside, and they always come back and haunt you when you're going vegan. And therefore, you start replicating the traditional animal foods, because in the traditional animal food, your body knows from memory in a way that these nutrients are within it. So they'll create cravings for the nutrients that they require. Vegans are continually making mock meats, fake chicken wings with cauliflower, trying to replicate scrambled eggs. A lot of their stuff have yeast, which kind of mimics a cheesy taste. So it's important to understand, and the companies know that we need that food. That's why they are trying to make fake synthetic foods based on cheap monocropped plants that are sprayed with Roundup, that are just devoid really of any nutrients, because they tend to be lower in fat. These vegan soy products, you're not able to absorb properly the fat soluble vitamins. So it's just such a big propaganda machine that it's just very frustrating that the general public has really bought in to this myth. They know that our attention span now in this modern society that we live in now is extremely low. We look at headlines, we look at Facebook and see big bold words, and we never really investigate, nor do we have journalists that are independent journalists really on mainstream anymore. So you're forced to try and look at online news sources, and those are considered fake news. So even if you come with facts, people will say, well, where'd you get that article? Oh, well, that's fake, because the mainstream media goes out of their way, and they don't really have to justify it, just besides saying that that's not accurate. And then people say, no, that's fake news. The company is expected to start the alternative beef cuts in high-end restaurants in Israel as early as next month, with plans to roll it out in European restaurants next year and at supermarkets in 2020. So we're going to have these 3D printed meats, extremely processed, made, they're focusing mainly on trying to replicate the textures, replicate the look, so that you, just like junk food, it will satisfy the craving but it's really tricking the brain and not offering you the abundant amount of different nutrients found in meats. Here we go, a few pictures. The people behind the alt steak are saying the intervention could mean big things for the food industry too. The CEO and co-founder of Redefined Meat told the media line, "This is the world's first 3D printed steak that can really pass the test of what is steak. We've reached a milestone because we can print steak on a large scale and the taste and texture are amazing." Jamie Dodgers go vegan again with new recipe. Heinz launches a ketchup, salad, barbecue sauce, blah, blah, blah. To make a meatless steak that resembles the muscle of an animal requires the use of a special 3D printer. If people just seem to not understand that they're slowly transitioning us into synthetic foods that require synthetic vitamins and nutrients that do not have the same availability nor absorption capacity as nutrients naturally found in whole food, in animal foods. These are synthetic vitamins. Vitamin C is not really vitamin C in your vitamin bottle. So we can not compare. Nor are there many studies looking at the absorption and availability of non-animal derived micronutrients. Here you go. There's the fat, blood, and muscle, the wonderful high-tech, save the world, compassionate dog food. Actually, it would be wrong to feed your dog this also, as the current dog food has been showing leads to heart disease. Now, I find it super interesting that I have an article that I mentioned previously about seed oils, the sunflower seed within this, the seed oils that are a possible driver for actual coronary heart disease, where there's a causation, at least a pathway that we can have a little more certainty compared to saturated fat, and the simplistic idea that it's solid, at room temperature and can clog your drain. First of all, saturated fat does not look solid once you ingest it and it enters the bloodstream. It's in its fatty acid form. The idea that saturated fat clogs drains is equivalent to it causing clogging and sludging of your vessels. It is the same as saying, well, meat is solid, broccoli is solid, so you're going to have these solid green broccoli pieces flying around. That's the same rationale that saturated fat it is solid at room temperature, and that it's literally like a clogging of a drain. This is how it's been sold, completely unscientific. It's not what occurs in the body. You'll see here the ads. Domino's launches 2 vegan pizzas. Morrison launches vegan food. Get ready for cruelty-free staycation in Margate on this new vegan line. Now, a lot of people come back and tell me, well, Jason, what's wrong? If people, want plant-based options, I don't see a problem. I'm personally kind of not going to eat it, many people say. But, what's the deal? I'm not going to eat it, and people can have an option once in a while if they so wish. Look, veganism and soy patties have existed at least since the 60s movement, where Eastern philosophy and religion and the ascetic, denying the body for enlightenment. This is what happened during the hippie era, where they were doing mysticism in Eastern religions while they got high as a kite on psychedelics. Now, I don't care about that. We've always had vegan patties at the grocery store. This is different because this is not offering new options. This new agenda is about propaganda to demonize the actual essential and optimal food for humans. Right now, there's a heavy focus on red meat, but that once red meat has been destroyed, they will also go to the next one and the next one, while giving fake propaganda information, probably based on epidemiological studies, marking things like associated with, linked with, increased risk, and people will just think when they hear that it causes, when links, risks, and associations do not prove causes, and many associations, up to 80% at least, have no causation. So the associated studies that they're using to manipulate so that they can say it's science, it is based on these food questionnaires. These associative studies are made to find associations and linear relationships so that they can waste more money and go into randomized controlled trials. If you go to a randomized controlled trial and there's not even an association, why are you doing the randomized controlled trial? Therefore, the studies are necessary. Epidemiological studies and the profession of epidemiology has its purpose, but when it's being used and being put into media by corporations for us to eat the dog food, the kibble, the dog chow, when we're going to turn around and wake up and realize that there's many tastes and textures and varieties, but we're looking back and we realize that everything has become synthetic and a version of the real thing. This is going to be making synthetic foods based on the wheat, the corn, the soy, and that's it. I hope that you're as appalled seeing this article as I am. It's very scary. This is not about offering options to people. It's about making us believe that the food that is essential and healthy for us is bad for us, and that the food that is very unhealthy but makes a fortune for big corporations, these are healthy for you. This is a downright lie. Anybody who puts a little bit of effort to really stand back and look at this without a bias, without all the images of what we've been fed, that saturated fat is bad, that cholesterol is bad, that plants are nutrient dense, when in reality it's the animal food that's nutrient dense. The plant foods have perhaps on paper many nutrients, but they are not absorbable. They also have anti-nutrients that lock onto minerals and prevent absorption, called phyto-anti-nutrients, plant anti-nutrients. I'm not going to go any further. I wanted to concentrate on this article that is a prime example. We have lab-grown meat coming out that is taking, cell cultures and trying to grow slabs of meat in nutrient goos and grow these in petri dishes and feed us and say, look, it comes from a cow, but we didn't have to herd it. This is genetically modified to the extreme. We have the Beyond Meat push. Now we have the plant-based 3D printed meat. People have to understand that it's not about taste, even though animal food tastes amazing compared to these substitutes. It's about nourishing your body every day with the understanding that you have to offer it a good source of complete bioavailable protein found in animal foods, as well as a balanced ratio of omega-6 to 3, which is found in all animal foods, from eggs, fish, and even meat and pork, as well as poultry. They each have a blend. And if you're getting your omega-6 and your omega-3 in this fashion, avoiding the oxidized refined seed oils that occurred in the early 20th century that had never been consumed prior to the early 20th century. This was a huge change in the human food diet, and now these oxidized omega-6 rich plant fats that are easily become oxidized even on the shelf, that oxidize if heat or light occurs. All of these things were major changes in the food, in the human food chain. And when disease started to occur, they didn't assume possibly the new addition was causing the issue. They started thinking about ancient foods that we've been consuming, ancient foods that caused no chronic modern diseases previously, and all of a sudden now this ancient food, the ruminant animals that humans are humans because of ruminant animals and the fat content that they were able to get as a primary source of nutrients and a primary fuel that is much more efficient than glucose. Anyways, I'll leave you guys with that. Share the video, start talking about how ridiculous this 3D printed meat is. Understand that it's not about just taste and cravings. It's about understanding that you need the proteins, you need the essential fats. You actually need saturated fat to aid in absorption of a lot of things. Your body, the myelin sheath, high concentration of saturated fats within prostaglandins, within hormones, within the brain, molecules that need saturated fat. Our whole nervous system is covered by a highly saturated fat membrane called the myelin sheath that allows conduction of nerve impulses to travel down the nerve fiber. Fat is everywhere. People used to use expressions to live off the fat of the land. So we understand that fat is an extremely valued, nutrient-dense, whole food that humans really praised. And the fact that we have, in a very short time, 2 generations, have completely forgot the ancestral wisdom, and we have been deceived and betrayed by corporate gain. Thanks.